Diesel is seeing a huge revival at the moment, speaking to Gen Z in an authentic way that few other brands are able to. So, how is a brand that once spoke to boomers able to transition so well? Actually, the history of Diesel is a bit complicated, but technically it started around 1970 as Moltex, founded by Adriano Goldschmied, a man that is known as the godfather of denim due to him literally inventing the luxury denim market and several different denim treatments like stonewash denim, super stretch denim, and a way to soften denim with Tencel. But aside from founding the Moltex/Diesel brand, he also founded Replay and Gap, among many others. So clearly he's a very important person in the modernization of fashion retailing, but for this story we'll be focusing on Moltex/Diesel, which for about 6 years was doing quite well under Goldschmied, until the release of the stonewash denim in 1976, which would go on to be extremely successful, being one of the more defining trends of the late 70s. Something that new employee, 21-year-old university dropout Renzo Rosso would come to see from the inside. There's not really a record as to how, but Renzo Rosso is credited with drastically improving the performance of Moltex as a business over the following 2 years, after which, with a loan from his father, he would go on to purchase a 40% stake in the business. Rosso and Goldschmied then renamed the company to Diesel as a reference to the oil crisis going on at the time and how diesel was an affordable alternative, just like their products. Everything was going swimmingly at Diesel until 1982, when Rosso and Goldschmied would create, amongst many other creatives, the Genius Group. The Genius Group at the time was a think tank for up-and-coming creatives in the fashion industry, but at the time it was quite slow and not particularly successful, at least not in the way that it would go on to be. I mean, nothing like this existed in the same way, so of course it was slow, but over time it would go on to parent huge brands like Maison Martin Margiela, Marni, Victor & Rolf, as it was swallowed up by the Only the Brave group, I think in 2000, which is also uncoincidentally owned by Rosso. So, back in the early 80s, the Genius Group was something Goldschmied really believed in, allowing that in 1985, Rosso and Goldschmied would reevaluate their initial 60-40 split of the business. Rosso traded his shares in the Genius Group with Goldschmied for sole control over the Diesel brand, himself focusing on textile development while hiring young designers to come in to keep the brand cool and differentiate them from their competitors. This kept the company fashion forward, definitely still firmly in the luxury market, while also having a wide product offering that included children's wear launched in 1984, menswear launched in 1987, and of 1989, women's wear as well, which, as you can see from their first catalogue here in Autumn/Winter 87, none of these were solely denim, meaning that by this point they had full product ranges in all 3 categories. But even more fundamental to the brand than the product offering was the advertising, which would take a real leap forward in 1991 after the appointment of Maurizio Marchiori as advertising director. Not only would he concrete the brand's logo into the one that we know today, he would also oversee the release of their For Successful Living campaign, which ran in 89 countries over 3 years. The campaign was extremely successful in all of its iterations and made Diesel the hottest denim brand by the year 2000. The adverts were funny, controversial, political, and so obviously it had people talking, leading to a ridiculous rise in sales, both for stockists and for their aforementioned catalogues, which was the only way to order clothes to your home in the year 2000. That was until fashion retailers would find alternatives. By that, I of course mean Diesel would find an alternative by literally inventing online fashion retail, being the first fashion house to have a website, in their case, Diesel.com. This in itself would be so successful that it funded their first store opening on Lexington Avenue in New York City, directly across from their main competitor, Levi's. This was then quickly succeeded by more flagships around the world, one in London and one in Rome, then followed by 12 more shops around the world, all within 1996. During this time, Diesel had also launched their TV ad campaigns, the most successful of which is this one titled 5 AM Mono Village, that was a mockery of homophobia and toxic masculinity. This was something that they've been vocal on in their advertising campaigns before, even dating back to their earlier Successful Living print campaign, which had 2 naval officers kissing. And let's not forget that this was the 90s, when acceptance for LGBTQ people just was not there on this corporate level at the same scale that it is in the West today. So this was pretty radical for such a big company to so unabashedly support the LGBTQ community. All of which meant that this advert won the Grand Prix at the International Cannes Advertising Festival, a major win for the company. From here, the company could not stop getting bigger, expanding year upon year with retail outlets both standalone and placements in department stores all across the world. In 1998, they opened a more luxury offering as well called Style Lab, which focused more towards professional office men. And in 2008, they launched an even more premium line called Diesel Black Gold, which was launched with their first catwalk collection ever in autumn-winter 2008. The collection was a huge hit, meaning that by 2012, Diesel was present in over 80 countries with 10,000 points of sale and a turnover of 1.5 billion euros. However, this is where it would start to go wrong. Diesel had placed tens of millions of dollars into brick and mortar stores by the time the 2012 financial crisis hit. No longer were the stores profitable because generally people had less money for these mid-luxury goods, meaning Diesel was seeing some major losses from these, quote, ill-timed, excessive, and unfruitful expansions. Diesel fell exceptionally hard. Despite seeming to understand that their problem was with their undesirable product, and them trying to rectify this with their first creative director, Lady Gaga stylist Nicola Formichetti, who was appointed in 2013, and then implementing one of their best advertising campaigns to date in 2018, which used Nicki Minaj, Gucci Mane, Bella Thorne, the brand was just unable to recuperate any of the coolness that they'd lost. For the following 6 years, they saw themselves losing money heavily year on year, as much as 53% losses in annual sales that equated to an $104 million loss that the company simply couldn't recover from, losing Formichetti in 2017 and announcing bankruptcy in 2019. This is truly the lowest point for the brand. They began closing stores, and Rosso said this was one of the hardest times in his life, but he didn't want to give up just yet. They prepared for their bankruptcy hearing a 3-year plan to remedy the company. Effectively, their plan was to regenerate the engine by cutting out all their mass fashion lines and focusing on one strong line, Diesel Redline, which is exactly what Burberry had successfully done in 2016, just a couple of years before. However, for Diesel, they would focus much more on the young clientele of Gen Z. Rosso replaced a significant amount of the head staff at Diesel, naming himself as chief executive, and repositioned Diesel as a more underground, luxury-esque label, mostly through collabs, beginning with a collab with Hood by Air in early 2018, Y Project in mid-2018, Ready Made in early 2019, a Cold Wall in late 2019, Great, an underground luxury store in Japan in mid-2020, and Eric Emanuel in late 2020. After which they then shortly named Glenn Marten as Diesel's creative director. But before we get on to Glenn Marten, I want to quickly explain the absolute genius of this marketing plan just as quickly as I can. Diesel is known primarily for 2 things: incredible marketing and denim. This new campaign saw the brand go hard on new creative forms of marketing and really focused on the influencer level in a way that showed the brand to be fashionable once again, but in an accessible way, while showing off their most beloved fabric, denim, in a way that really spoke to Gen Z while developing on Diesel's own house codes. This is something that Glenn Marten can really be heavily credited for, just as much as Rosso can. Sure, it was Rosso's idea, but he wasn't so smug to think that he could pull it off without hiring a true creative genius, namely in this case, Glenn Marten. Glenn Marten is a man that truly deserves his own video, but to really whittle down his experience to an unfair level, about 10 years ago, he joined the brand Y Project and slowly grew the brand into the fashion heavy hitter that it is today, with interesting designs and silhouettes made primarily on their favorite fabric, denim. Specifically, this is why Glenn Marten is the perfect choice for the job, not only because he had that creative soul that Rosso had been championing since he took over the company 40 years prior, but because he has this extensive experience working with Diesel's most influential fabric in denim. So, Diesel's first collection with Glenn Marten was Spring/Summer 22. And it was expressed through this dreamlike video. As a piece of advertising, the video is really an exceptional way to bring forward the marketing that Diesel was known for in the 90s/2000s into the 2020s. It's fresh, modern, without looking like a huge corporation is trying to get to know you in that really weird and awkward way. The dancing is admittedly pretty bad though, and a bit offbeat, which is a bit unfortunate, so I do think the beginning of the video is a little bit try-hard, but as soon as they leave this fake party, it feels much more fresh and new, definitely giving that Fifth Element vibes, which plays really well into the clothing. The collection itself modernizes silhouettes of 90s hits in a way that work really well, especially with this mini skirt and this tube top in a heightened way that is also very commercial. Obviously too, Diesel is quite well known for that 90s, 2000s aesthetic, so for them to bring Diesel in their 90s, 2000s heyday back in this way is just so smart, and it's no wonder it speaks to consumers so well. And although actually Marten has said that specifically his inspiration for the collection was Diesel from the 80s, when Rosso was hiring the various young designers to keep it cool, I don't really see the 80s in the collection, but I do absolutely adore the collection nonetheless, and I do see how well it works with the Diesel branding. But that's not to say Marten isn't well represented in the collection as well. One thing Marten has been known for recently in his career is the trompe-l'oeil, which is not something Diesel has ever done up until this point to my knowledge, but you can see this in the Y Project Autumn/Winter 22 collection and again in the Spring/Summer 23 collection from Y Project. So it really seems that he has experimented with trompe-l'oeil with Diesel before then adding it to his Autumn/Winter 22 collection with Y Project. Also in the collection is a lot of silhouette play, which is really the magnum opus of Marten, who introduced this style to Y Project for his fourth collection from the brand in Spring/Summer 16, but really it's much more recognizable in the Autumn/Winter 16 collection. So by showing this and the new Diesel collection side by side, you may be able to see his handwriting and how it seems to work well for both brands, which kind of explains why he's had this huge success with now both. It's interesting, it's unique. Now with Diesel, it's very accessible because really it's almost like Diesel is Glenn's affordable offering. It's almost like his diffusion line for his work. But skipping a bit further ahead to when the collection Spring/Summer 22 came into stores, I want to talk about their marketing for this specifically because it has been genius. They had the collection sent to Kanye West, who surprised Julia Fox with a look for their first date, presenting her with racks on racks of Diesel, which went completely viral. Even that moment where they were making out on the floor separately went completely viral. They sent the collection to TikTokers that just flooded our For You pages with countless Diesel looks. And I'm sure they did a lot more than these two things, but those two really kicked the brand into high gear, making it pretty much the hottest brand for anyone, maybe under 25. The bag especially has been absolutely everywhere. I cannot escape this bag, but in a positive way. And it's just so clearly resonated with the generation. Really, I could talk about this specific collection for a full 16 minutes because of the way that it has been handled, but going back in time a little bit to the Autumn/Winter 22 collection, the clothes and the setting of the collection itself was perfect. It's giving me more of that Y2K dial-up connection vibe that works so well with their target market. And if I was to hazard a guess, I would definitely put money on Diesel being one of the hottest brands throughout the entire winter. I think their sales will continue to be steady, if not rising through the season, as more and more people can bank on it being a cool brand for the foreseeable future. I really cannot wait to see how it relates to the retail market, which brings us to the Spring/Summer 23 collection that just showed a couple of days ago. Specifically because of the democratic way that they actually gave out tickets, with 70% of the tickets going to 18 to 25-year-olds, while 1,600 fashion students from Milan were given free admission. I respect this so much. It's so incredibly generous, and it's a wonderful way to make lifelong consumers of Gen Z. Genuinely, this has been one of the best collections of the whole fashion week worldwide, in my opinion. Something about Diesel at the moment just makes it feel so fresh and modern, unlike any other brand that's on the market at the moment. The whole setting is just completely beautiful and keeps with the whole Charlie XCX, I want to go back to 1999 vibe that they've become known for now. The bags I can see just being held by every single teenager going back to school, and the clothes have become even more heightened in that Glenn Marten's way. I guess because they've seen the ridiculous success that came with the first two collections, they're not too worried now about allowing him to have more free reign because they know it will sell. So they may as well get the clothes that make people most excited, especially now that their target market is solidified and receptive to the brand's new look. Really and truly, this collection just exemplifies everything we have come to know from Diesel and Martens both. I absolutely love the partnership with Glenn and with Diesel, and I'm so happy that it's commercially viable too. And actually, I think that has a lot to do with Rosso's business intellect. He really understands where to stand back and let a creative person be creative. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you do want to see more videos like this one, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell to be notified of future videos. And then please check out these videos on the screen now for further watching.